Smith online for Pack Pride, the head editor Pack Pride is going to be joining us. We're going to talk about the greatest game right about now. What's going on, Cory? Welcome to the show.
Dr. C, how you
What's
did that?
going on? Doing well. How are y'all?
We're good.
Good morning.
Hello?
Yep.
Oh, there he is. So, hey, Cory, we've been having a good time, man. This is a very significant game that's coming up for the NC State Wolfpack, and it means a lot. I mean, this is the first time in a long time we've seen the Wolfpack have a chance to take themselves and catapult themselves into the national spotlight like they are. What's your take on the game coming up this weekend? Or coming up tomorrow, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's a significant one. I mean, it's the first ever top 10 matchup in NC State history. You look back at, a few over the years, like the Clemson game last year. You think back to, and most of the games that have been, of consequence have been Clemson over the last few years. Let's be honest. And they came close. They finally beat Clemson last year, but that kind of put them in the, gave them a seat at the ACC table, not really nationally, because they had already lost the game at that point, and people knew that if they won that game, it put them in the driver's seat for the ACC, but not necessarily nationally. This one, not only puts them at the top of the ACC Atlantic Division because, of what Clemson was able to do this past weekend and what if they were able to beat Clemson, but, also puts them on the national talks now because everybody's kind of, talking about the downfall of the ACC if Clemson loses, but nobody's really talking about, where this could put NC State if they win. You could be talking about a top 7, top 8 NC State team going after, with 2 straight games against undefeated teams in the ACC with Florida State and then Syracuse the following 2 weeks. And those are both chances to help NC State's case too.
Wow. I forgot about FSU and Syracuse, who are currently right now undefeated. We're talking to head editor of Pack Pride, Cory Smith. And Cory, thank you for joining here on the Sports Shop. So I've been using this term. This is the greatest opportunity, I think, in the history of the program.
Here we go. Here we go.
In the history of the program to really kind of elevate them nationally where they have an opportunity to really get in the college football playoffs. Do you agree with that?
I do, and I think a big part of it also is, what they've done over the past few seasons because they've kind of built themselves up. I think we've all seen, unless you're a national brand, if you start inside the top 25 or you don't even start, inside the top 20, it's next to impossible to get yourself up in in those discussions unless you have, number one, a difficult strength of schedule. Say you're in the SEC or you're in the Big Ten and you have to knock off. In the ACC, you have to be a top 20, possibly top 15 team to really get yourself in that discussion. So, now it all comes down to taking care of business and handling things because if you lose one game or if you lose one game midway through the season and it's not Clemson, maybe you can help yourself and get back from that. But you lose to Clemson, everybody's going to be saying, all right, well, this is the NC State team that we've seen for years. There's no reason to be serious about them.
I agree 110%. So now there you go. He agrees.
He agrees with you.
Yeah.
That is the greatest game in the history of NC State football.
I think so.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, again, there's probably been some a long time ago that elevated NC State into the ACC championship game, or honestly, winning ACC championships, were probably more important, a long time ago.
Yes.
But at this point, with the way college football is going, it's not just the greatest game for NC State, but it also helps them in a really, really big way nationally too.
I agree.
Because there's so much talk about this game going into this weekend, a top 10 matchup. And if NC State's able to win this game, it also puts them in a different area when it comes to, all this conference realignment talk. I know everybody's kind of put that on the back burner for a little while, but it's a huge game in that sense too, because if you want to be able to keep yourself in those national talks, you want to be able to go to, someone like the Big Ten or the SEC or, hell, even if you're able to keep the ACC alive in some kind of merger, NC State wants to be a part of those. And you help yourself if you're able to stay a top 10 team throughout the season. And this is the best way to do it. Also, obviously, you put yourself in the driver's seat for the ACC, which is really, really important, especially, if you're able to win the Atlantic. You look over at the Coastal right now, and man, it's a rock fight between all those teams, and not in the best possible.
Yeah, not in a good way. Yeah, I agree.
No.
Yeah.
Awesome. We're talking to Cory Smith, editor of Pack Pride. We're talking about the greatest game going down for NC State against Clemson. Let's talk about the weather. I know they went down a little bit earlier to prepare. How big a factor is the weather, and are they ready?
It sounds like, most of the remnants of the hurricane should be through. The latest prediction I saw was that Saturday by 2 a.m. it should already be gone. There will probably still be some effects afterwards, around noon or so. But by the time this game kicks off, it should be just about clear. And I think they'll be playing in good conditions. Now, will the wind still be a factor? Sure. And there's possibility that, you could still be playing on a soggy field. But, when we were all talking about this on Monday and Sunday morning going, why is College Game Day going to Clemson? Well, that was, we all thought that the hurricane was going to be going through as potentially still, a Cat 2 hurricane. Now we're all talking about, the fact that it's barely strengthened back to a 1. It's going to be coming through, but it's not going to be nearly what we thought. And it's moving a lot faster than most people thought, too.
We're talking with Cory Smith, the head editor of Pack Pride. We're talking about the big game that's coming up tomorrow. Last question for me, Cory. Dave Doeren, the Dave Doeren era. Speaking of the biggest game for NC State, the Wolfpack catapulted themselves into the national spotlight. What is the final say? What would you think to be the final say on this game and the impact of the Dave Doeren era?
Yeah, if they win this game, it's you mentioned it multiple times. It is the greatest game if they win this game, that puts Dave Doeren in a different category. I think a lot of people have the lone reason why people have questioned Dave Doeren over the last several years has been, number one, his inability to win big games, which we've seen actually happen over the past 2 years. You saw it. Obviously, the game against Clemson last year was a big game, but they almost gave it away, missing a couple field goals and then having to win it in double overtime. You look at this year, this is once again that game, and you have a couple more coming up again. I know a lot of people before the year didn't care about Florida State and Syracuse as much, but those are very real games now. And I think if they win this game, this is something that, not necessarily erases doubt, but it changes the narrative around Dave Doeren that we've talked about for, that fans that don't really appreciate him have talked about for a very long time, his inability to win big games and his inability to win consistently in the ACC. And he will do both of those things if he's able to start off 1-0 with a win against top 10 Clemson.
Nice. All right, Cory. Look, looks like we all set
for
the biggest game in the history.
Greatest, not the big greatest.
Greatest.
I almost thought of greatest.
There's a difference between big and great.
The greatest game in NC State history.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness, I can't wait to see this. This is gonna be great. Yeah. As always, Cory, appreciate you having me on.
Thank you, man. Appreciate you.
Can't wait to talk to you again.
Yep.
Yes, sir. Thank you guys so much. I'm looking forward to it.
Thank you.
Yep.